What's good, Fight Family? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be breaking down UFC on ESPN 59. Rose Namajunas taking on Tracy Cortez. Cortez stepped in on short notice. Honestly, pretty lackluster main event. We're going to be dealing with a couple of those in this month, but it's not too bad of a card. So let's just get right into the first fight of the night. Montel Jackson taking on Damon Blackshear at bantamweight. So this is a battle of kind of slick striker with a little bit more punching power versus a strong grappler in Damon Blackshear. Damon Blackshear's activity is what makes me low-key want to side with him. He hasn't looked bad in any of the fights he's really been in for the most part. Montel Jackson, on the other hand, he's had like 3 canceled bouts over the last year and a half. He hasn't fought in a cool minute, but he is a sneaky underrated fighter at bantamweight. I've always kind of rated Montel Jackson quite highly. I just wish he would fight more often. I think in the last time that he did fight, that's what I said too in that video. If he just fought more often, I think he would be in the top 10 at bantamweight. I am going to be siding with Montel Jackson to get this one done. He's 32. He's reaching his physical prime. I've always thought that he had pretty good fight IQ for a non-ranked UFC fighter. Yeah, I think Montel Jackson gets this one done by a decision. I think he's going to have the bigger moments on the feet. Damon Blackshear might be able to steal a round with his grappling, but honestly, I think Montel Jackson might be able to handily put a beat down on Damon over 3 rounds. So I'm going to go with Montel Jackson by a decision. Moving on up the card, Josh Fremd taking on Andre Petroski. I'm going to side with Andre Petroski getting this one done. Josh Fremd just doesn't look great anywhere, and I could have swore this was a different fight too. So this must be a short notice mix-up. I'm going to side with Andre Petroski getting this one done by a submission. I think his grappling is just going to be much better than Josh Fremd's, like leagues better. Moving on up the card, Luana Santos taking on Maria Agapova. Maria Agapova got fraud checked like her first UFC fight, and she was a like minus 1100 favorite. So fishy stuff going on there, but she gets fraud checked by Shayna Dobson of all people, and she's looked horrible ever since. I think Luana Santos is going to be able to wrap up a submission. Maria Agapova just has no fucking heart, bro. No heart. Moving up the card, great fight. Joshua Van taking on Charles Johnson. I'm not letting you do it to me again, Johnson. I'm picking Charles Johnson. He's not about a style on another fucking contender that he shouldn't be able to beat, but then beats. I can't let him do this again. Look, Joshua Van is going to start to pour it on. He's going to lose the first round. Joshua Van is going to lose the first round. That is just how he fights. Second and the third round. Do you trust Joshua to land the shots that might drop Charles or even just put him out? Or do you think that he's going to be able to just stay in Charles's face, keep him up against the cage, and box him like he does everybody else? I don't. I think Charles Johnson has the perfect style matchup to take on somebody like Josh Van, who's just going to be boxing heavy, trying to walk you down with strictly hands. Charles has better timing. Charles has better wrestling. Charles has better kickboxing. Charles can fight better on the back foot. It's just, as much as I fuck with Joshua Van, and I've picked him in all of his fights so far in the UFC, I don't think he can get this one done. I think this is too much of a stylistic nightmare matchup for such a young contender. I'm going to be siding with Charles Johnson getting this one done by a, let's call it a split decision, even though I think it'll be handily 2-1 to Charles. I think one judge will fuck it up and give the fight to Van. I'm calling a split decision for Charles Johnson. Moving on up the card, Jasmine Jasudavicius taking on Fatima Klein. Fatima Klein honestly does look pretty good for a female outside of the UFC. 6-0. Her striking and her grappling are both decently polished, and she actually flows between the two well, which you don't see too often in women's MMA, at least at the lower levels. The reason I think this is going to be a problem is because she's honestly crushed all of her wins, and Jasmine Jasudavicius is actually a decent female fighter. She has solid grappling. She has heart. She definitely is in there trying to fight, which a lot of women aren't. They're like in there trying to have a point match or something. They think it's a sport and not literally fighting to the death. No, not to the death, but it is fucking cage fighting, and you need to have that mentality that it's to the death. I think Jasmine is one of the few females that has any type of I don't know, testosterone-filled, what is the word I'm thinking of here? You know what? You get the fucking point I'm making. She has testosterone. Fatima Klein, I don't think does. I think Jasmine Jasudavicius is going to get this one done by unanimous decision. Moving on up the card, Abdulrazak Al-Hassan taking on Cody Brundage. Dude, I don't really trust Abdulrazak Al-Hassan, but I feel like he's going to land powerful enough in the first round, and Cody won't be able to get the takedown before it happens. And I think that'll be wraps. I think Cody Brundage is going to fold pretty much immediately. I I don't really have much else to say about it. I don't rate Cody Brundage at all. I don't really rate either of them. But I'm going to be siding with Abdul Razak Al Hassan, getting this one done by a first-round knockout. And then we move on up the card. Julian Erosa taking on Christian Rodriguez. C-Rod, the fucking contender kryptonite himself, Christian Rodriguez. This man just loves sending people back that are supposed to be up-and-coming names or people that the UFC wants to build up. This time, they're finally trying to build C-Rod and give him an older name. Julian Erosa has an interesting fight style for this matchup. Honestly, this is a hard fight to call. Like, I could see this being a pick'em on odds just because of Julian's style. I think Christian Rodriguez will get this one done ultimately. I'm sure his coaches are going to have a good game plan for him to be able to, I don't know, mix it up with Julian. I don't know what you do here necessarily as a Christian Rodriguez cornerman. Like, do you want C-Rod chasing the wrestling early and just trying to tire out Julian? Do you want him staying on the feet and playing that poking game? Because I don't know if you want to do that with Julian. I think he's actually a better point fighter with the hands and the kickboxing. I don't know what their game plan is, but I do trust Christian Rodriguez. He's looked really good in a lot of these fights, especially that Isaac Dulgarian fight. Like, it's like almost all of his fights, he has some trouble at the beginning, and he just finds a way to out-grind his opponents. So I'm going to be going with C-Rod getting this one done by a decision. Moving on up the card, we got Gabriel Bonfim taking on Ange Loosa. Bonfim, I would say he was fraud checked because he lost. Hello? What the fuck? I think I just got hacked. Live. My computer's tweaking. Gabriel Bonfim versus Ange Loosa. Sorry about that, guys. Gabriel Bonfim got fraud checked. He lost to Nicholas Dalby, who's like not even a top 15 guy. Should be, but he's not. But he's taking on Ange Loosa, who is just a fraud himself in the UFC. Like, he does not belong in the UFC. Gabriel Bonfim is most likely going to come out here, try to chase the wrestling because he's going to be scared of the hands from Ange Loosa. I think Ange Loosa will do a good job defending at first, but eventually he'll find his way to the ground, and Gabriel Bonfim is going to wrap up a submission. I think it'll be in the second round. I think he'll be close in the first round, but Ange Loosa will do just enough in the scrambles, and he will be able to survive that round. But the second round's going to come along, and I think Gabriel Bonfim is going to know what he's going to need to do. He's going to be able to wrap up the legs or something really quick and chase his submission game. Yeah, not much else to say about that guy. Let's go on to the only like 3 fights on the card, aside from C-Rod's fight, that any of us are really going to be caring about. Drew Dober versus Gene Silva is the feature fight of the night. Gene Silva just came off of the last card, UFC 303. He got a knockout over Charles Jourdain, somebody who never gets finished, really. And he looked good doing it. Now, he's going up in weight on short notice, taking on Drew Dober. That's that type of shit that we all love as fight fans, as hardcore fight fans. This is what we love to see. This is what spices up a card. And honestly, Drew Dober is just a fan favorite. He's just a fun fighter to watch. He either gets a good knockout or he puts on a fight and then gets finished. I don't know who to pick here. This is such a hard call for me. I want to say Drew Dober because he's naturally a lightweight. He had more time to prep for this fight. He's not just coming in on short notice right after his other fight. But then again, Gene Silva took no damage at all. He looked really clean in there. Clean in the striking department, I mean. I do think Drew Dober is going to be able to make this one probably a bit of a scrap. I just don't know if I want to go against the technicality of Gene Silva. You know what? I'm going to be crazy here. I'm going to pick Gene Silva getting this one done. Although I don't really know if I completely agree with that. On paper, I think Drew Dober should be able to get this one done like 6-7 times out of 10. But I'm going to be siding with Gene Silva getting this one done by a knockout. I hope they're going to have a fucking scrap too. Moving on, co-main event of the night. Santiago Ponzinibbio taking on Muslim Salikov. Muslim Salikov is just too old. If Muslim Salikov finds a way to fucking knock out Santiago Ponzinibbio, I don't even know what I'm going to do, bro, because some things just aren't supposed to happen in this sport, and then they do. Santiago is the quicker of the two. He's maybe not the more technical striker. I think that's probably Muslim for sure. And the technical grappler would go to Muslim. But I think the person who's more physically fit, more close to their prime... What the fuck? Okay, you know what? My shit is just fucking tweaking. I'm going with Muslims. I mean, I'm not going with Muslim Salikov. I'm going with Santiago Ponzinibbio. Fucking A. I think he's going to be able to get this one done by a knockout. I think he's going to be losing at first in a point fight, and then he's going to find that knockout blow. And, yeah, secure the dub. Let's just talk about the main event before my computer starts tweaking out even more. Rose Namajunas versus Tracy Cortez. horrible main event. Tracy Cortez steps in on short notice to save the main event. Bro, they could have just moved up fucking... They honestly could have put Drew Dober and Gene Silva, and I wouldn't be mad about it. But yeah, Tracy Cortez steps up. A lot of people I've been seeing are picking her, even people in my comments on TikTok and YouTube for my early predictions. I'm going with Rose Namajunas. I think this should be a clear-cut, easy fucking win for Rose, especially because it's a 5-rounder. Now, that being said, Rose loves to make fights losable. She loves to lose fights. She clearly should be able to win, like the Carlos Esparza fight. And she has weird mentalities about these things. Like, I did not like the way she walked out of that Carlos Esparza fight, not blaming herself at all, not taking any accountability. I don't like that. It's never sat well with me. But at the same time, she's one of my favorite fighters of all time, point blank period. I love Rose. So I am going to be siding with her. I hope she gets this one done. Tracy Cortez, you did my boy Brian Ortega wrong. Fuck you. Yeah, that's all I got to say, boys. I don't want my computer to start tweaking anymore. This shit's fucking pissing me off. I'm going to go figure this out. But yeah, I'll catch y'all.